I was a teen mom. Look at me. I graduated from high school. I graduated from college. You can too. I'll show you how I did it. I can show you how you can do it. Hi there. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Summer Owens. And if you've been following me for a while, you know I empower people to become more confident and resilient leaders of teams or just their own lives. And I just realized that I've been doing these videos for a long time and I haven't shared my story and I haven't fully shared my story. I was a teen mom. I became a mom at 15 years old. And I wrote a book about my life to share my journey, but I wanted to do this video because I wanted to share more information and some encouragement and some inspiration for a teen mom watching this video to see how I went from being a mom at 15, pregnant by somebody I didn't even know and did not consent to have sex with, to becoming a multi-award winner, an author, an entrepreneur, and a speaker, and so many things that I do that I've been blessed to do in spite of my story, creating So What, my business, and the So What Foundation, which is a nonprofit. So let's get into it. I just wanted to share my journey and some tips and answer some questions that I often get asked from teen parents, from parents of teen parents, that I get asked from young professionals, from entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to share this story, share my journey. Let's get into it. So first of all, I became a mom at 15 when I was in high school. I was 15 years old. And for the whole story, full story, check out my book. This is the book. And this is the book that I wrote that actually changed my life. I published this book in 2010, 14 years ago as of recording this video. When I wrote this book, I wrote it because I had been asked for so long, Summer, how do you do it? Because people saw me in high school. I was very involved in high school. I was the president of or vice president of the sophomore class, and that was the year that I was pregnant. I was on the yearbook staff. I was in other clubs and organizations. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was the editor-in-chief of the yearbook staff. And people knew I was a mom. And I ended up graduating from high school, number 8 in my class. I was in the top 10 and actually the only African-American student in the top 10 of my class. And I got a scholarship to the University of Memphis, a full leadership scholarship to the University of Memphis. And I was voted most likely to succeed in high school. But so going back to that, how did I even do that? So I got pregnant at 15, but I stayed involved in the organizations that I was involved in. I got involved in other organizations. I did have a support system. I didn't have this amazing support system that a lot of people think about and that I saw other people with and dreamt that they would have, or that I would have. But I was very grateful for the support that I did have. So in high school, I moved in with my grandmother when I was pregnant. I lived with her while I had my son, so those first 2 years before I went off to college. I had 2 jobs. I worked at the Waffle House and I worked at Arby's. And my grandma babysat while I was in school and while I was at work, but I never took advantage of her. I always showed my appreciation. I always came home when I was supposed to come home and did what I had to do, and I contributed to the household. I showed her that I really appreciated her. And I have lots of videos on appreciation that come from that time in my life, especially from that time in my life. But I worked hard. So when I wasn't at work or in school, I was being a mom and I was studying so that I could graduate. And like I said, I graduated at the top of my class and I got a scholarship to college. But what people didn't see, people did see me working hard and with my son, but people didn't see me crying. People didn't see me stressed and depressed and wanting to give up. People didn't see how much it hurt and how hard it was being a teen mom. But I was determined to get past the judgment because so many people counted me out. So many people looked down on me. So many people told me I wasn't going to make it. And I wasn't, that I let them down, that I was an embarrassment, and that I lost all the potential that I had when I became a teen mom. But I was determined that, for one, at that time, I really wanted to make my parents proud because I knew I had let them down. So I really wanted to work hard and make them proud. I wanted to make myself proud. I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't going to be a statistic, that I was not going to let my legacy be the teen mom. I was the girl who became a mom, and that's it. And so I worked hard because I wanted to graduate and go to college. And I knew my family didn't have money to pay for me to go to college. So I was blessed to earn a scholarship to the University of Memphis, which I am a proud alum. You have lots of things to show. I went to the University of Memphis and I did the same thing while I was in high school. I got involved. I went on a leadership scholarship that actually required me to get involved in different organizations, but I wanted to. I had my son at those meetings with me. I had my son at those events, and sometimes I had him in class with me because when I went to college, he was too young for the program. They did have a on-campus daycare, but he was too young. And so sometimes he had to go to class with me. Sometimes my roommates, my suite mates will babysit him for me. But the bottom line was I figured it out. I figured it out. I was determined to graduate from college. I was determined to change my life. I was determined to have a career, and I did it with my son by my side. And so 4 years, and I even took honors classes. I graduated with an honors diploma. I graduated magna cum laude. Why? Because I did the same thing that I did when I was in high school, and I worked hard. Oh, and I had a job. I had an internship while I was in college at Embassy Suites. Now, people saw the same thing they saw in high school when I was in college. They saw me working hard. They saw me walking across campus with my son. They saw me and they knew I was studying. But what they didn't see were those moments when I was alone and I was sad and I was scared and I was crying and I didn't know how I was gonna make it. And I wanted to give up. I was tired. I was frustrated. And um I just didn't know. And it was hard. It was so hard. But I saw the light at the end of the tunnel and I kept going. I kept going. And I did graduate. I graduated, like I said, in 4 years. I was named Miss University of Memphis. And the reason why I was selected to be Miss University of Memphis was because of my grade point average, which I graduated summa cum laude. I'd been involved in so many different organizations, including my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which I was able to pledge my freshman year when my son was with my grandmother for my first semester of college. I went home every weekend, nearly every weekend. I even brought my son back. I talk about all of it again in my book, exactly how I did it. But I graduated, and I was Miss University of Memphis. And I started my career with the Memphis Grizzlies. And how I was able to start my career with the Memphis Grizzlies, which was a very in-demand company to work for. So at the time, it was 2001, and the team had just relocated from Vancouver, Canada, to Memphis. And I still remember to this day saying, "Oh, it'd be so cool to work for the Memphis Grizzlies." And I applied, not thinking I would get the job, but long story short, I got a sales job and I worked hard and I proved myself while I was there, and I became a marketing coordinator for the Memphis Grizzlies. And these I actually got to be, this is the very first ticket, or the ticket from the very first game ever held for the Memphis Grizzlies. And it was at the Pyramid Arena. But I worked hard and I worked my way up, and we built FedEx Forum Arena, which is hard to believe that it's been what 23, 24 years now since we built FedEx Forum Arena. I was just there at a game last night for a University of Memphis Tigers game. But I got to be a part of a very special time in Memphis history and the University of Memphis, or the Memphis Grizzlies history, because I was there. I gave hard hat tours, got dirt from the groundbreaking even, but it was very special. But it wasn't by accident. It was because of the work that I did in high school, in spite of being a teen mom. It was the work that I did while I was in college because I was determined. I was determined to have a life and to have a life for my son. I knew I did not want to live a life being dependent on welfare, being dependent on my parents or anybody else. And I was living that life. So even though I wasn't making a lot of money at the Memphis Grizzlies, I was able to have my own, to have my own. And it was during that time too that I saved my money, and I bought my first house. I talk about exactly how I did that in my book. And I went through my life and my career. I worked for the Memphis Grizzlies. Then I went on, got my master's degree in an MBA, and I started working for Service Master. Then I worked for FedEx as a marketing advisor. But it was when I was at FedEx that I had a little bit more time, because when I was at the Grizzlies, I was working 60 to 80 hours a week. Plus, I was a single mom. When I was at Service Master, I worked normal hours, but I traveled a lot. So imagine being a single mom and having to travel, and my family's not in town. So it wasn't like I could just go drop him off at my mom's house because I have to go out of town for the weekend. It was a whole a whole ordeal every time I had to travel, because I had to coordinate him with a friend, somebody to pick him up from school and to take him to school and help me out. But by the time I went to work for FedEx, he was a little older. He was a teenager. And I didn't have to travel like that. I traveled when I wanted to. But having a teenage son as a single mom presents its own challenges. And so it was that time that I realized now I didn't need help babysitting. I needed help from a man. And I actually realized this long before then, but it was got really hard at that point. And I realized I needed to give him exactly what I was giving to the girls at the adolescent parenting program, the young moms at the adolescent parenting program. I had been a mentor at the adolescent parenting program, and I knew he needed a mentor. And so I couldn't force a mentor. I tried, I did everything I knew to do, but at the same time, I became a mentor. But it was also at that time I was able to really see past myself. I had been in survival mode long for so long. So I had it when I was 15. By this time, I was almost 30. So for at least 15 years, I had been working. I had been not only working, usually working two jobs or working a job that felt like two jobs. And I was a single mom, which is a job or two jobs in and of itself. And so by the time I got to FedEx, I was really kind of out of survival mode and really able to kind of see past myself. I had made it. I was making pretty good money. I had bought my first house already, and I lived in several apartments, then bought a house. I was able to see past myself. And that's when I was able to sit down and write this book. But not only that, what helped me to finally sit down and write this book is that I was going through another challenge. I had gotten married. I had gotten married in 2007 because I wanted help. To be honest, I did not want to be a single mom. I was tired of being a single mom. I knew my son needed a father, but that wasn't the right marriage. And so I was going through a divorce, and it was at that time that I moved into my apartment after the marriage, moved to an apartment, and writing has always been therapeutic for me. So I finally sat down and I started working on this book that people have been asking me basically to write for since I was in high school, because people had always ask me, Summer, how do you do it? When they would see me with my son, knowing that I had a job or two, and knowing that I was doing really well in school, that asked me, how did I do it? And my answer was always, I don't have time to think about it. All I have time to do is do it. I've been grinding and grinding so long. And so I finally sat down and I wrote this book, Life After Birth, a memoir of survival and success as a teenage mother. And I wrote that book, and kind of, because I was like, okay, I want teen moms to see you can make it. You can graduate from high school, because I graduated on time. I graduated number 8 in my class, and I was voted most likely to succeed. No, you don't have to do any of that, but you can graduate. I knew what the statistics were and how devastating they were, and then most teen moms wouldn't graduate. I guess you can. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how little support you have. You can at least graduate. And then I also wanted teen moms to see they could pursue post-secondary, some sort of post-secondary opportunity. So if you're a teen mom watching this, I want you to know you can do something after high school. First of all, you can graduate from high school. You can. There are so many resources available, way more than I had at the time, way more than I had at the time. But the question is, are you using them? And the second question is, are you appreciating them? Because they are there, and you can make it, you can graduate, and you can pursue post-secondary. So many opportunities to do something after high school, to set yourself up to be able to take care of yourself and to take care of your baby. Again, if you're using the resources, and then secondly, appreciating those resources. But I wrote this book. I sat down and I wrote this book because I wanted teen moms to see, we can do this, you can do this. I did it on a very high level. You can do it on a high level, or whatever level you choose to do it, but you can do it. You can do it. So I wrote the book, and the book took off, and it was a blessing. So I was working at FedEx at the time, and I loved my job. I love what I was doing. I was working in advertising. It was fun. But then I started getting people asking me to come and speak at a school and speak at a church and speak at different organizations. And every time I did it, I felt empowered. I felt great. I felt blessed. I felt amazing. Why? Because I began to see that sharing my story was helping and encouraging other people. It was helping and encouraging other people and showing them that they could make it too. And so I would get in front of people as often as I could, because I wanted to give hope. I wanted to give hope that I didn't have a lot of people giving me. I didn't have people showing me that they were teen moms and they could make it. Because a lot of the examples that I had and that I had seen as teen moms weren't doing the types of things that I wanted to do. They weren't going to college. They weren't buying homes. They weren't traveling. They weren't living the life that I had seen for myself before I became a teen mom. So I wanted to be that. I wanted to show teen moms that they could. And so I started speaking in schools, and it turned into something I'm like, okay, I got to do this. And my job no longer became fulfilling to me. And my job became a burden to me. And that was crazy because it was a job that I loved so much and was so fun to do. And I was making great money. And so 3 years after publishing this book, I um I actually had a professional school counselor reach out to me to ask me if I had a curriculum to go with the book, because her students were bringing the book to school, which that's great. I didn't know about that. They were bringing the book to school. They were reading it during class, and she was like, they wouldn't put it down. They were so into it. So she started reading it and she loved it and saw so many lessons in it and said the vocabulary is so rich. It was amazing how it was making the students think differently. And she asked me if I had a curriculum. So I said, not yet, but then I created one. I created a curriculum, and not only a curriculum, it's a workbook. And there are versions for middle school, fifth grade, started with fifth grade. She was a fifth grade professional school counselor. So fifth grade, middle school, high school. There's a version for young mothers, that's teen moms and those who are not teens, but still young moms. And there's a version for first generation college students, because I was a first generation college student, but I was able to do some incredible things in college because of what I figured out, how I figured out how to navigate college, and not just navigate college, but excel in college, even as a teen mom. So I created that curriculum. I created that workbook, or these workbooks, and they've grown and grown and grown. And I'm so grateful because now they've been implemented in school districts all over the country. And I just never imagined that my story, which was so painful for me to live, so painful for me to experience, so painful for me to write about. It was so painful for me to write about it. At the same time, it was freeing because I cried and cried and cried every night when I was working on this book. And I cried even as I was writing parts of the book, that I'm like, why am I even crying? And I didn't even realize that those things hurt me, because I'd never been in counseling. I had never been in therapy at that point. And the writing the book was therapy for me. It began to be therapy for me. And I was able to see a lot of things that really, really hurt me. And they weren't always the obvious things. But so I was a blessing for me to see how God had allowed me to use my story to help to shape the stories of other people. And so um, I wrote the book to help some teen moms. I wanted teen moms to see I was a teen mom. Look at me. I graduated from high school. I graduated from college. You can too. You can too. I'll show you how. I'll show you how I did it. I can show you how you can do it in your own way. And it had so I wrote the book, I wrote the curriculum. I'm going to work at FedEx every day, and I'm like, I'm not feeling this. I want to get in front of some more people, especially some more young people, or people who work with young people, to encourage them. And so when FedEx offered a buyout, I signed up to take it. Fast forward, I did not get the buyout, but my heart spoke and I knew I had to go. And I left. I left and I created So What? And that was as I was speaking in colleges and universities and classrooms and churches. I knew I had to have a name for my business. And when I was at FedEx, I actually had I did a project called when she did Oprah's Favorite Things, where the audience, when she had her television show, would receive all these items. And so FedEx was the shipper. FedEx had to ship those items. And so I was over that project. And I got to fly to Chicago to Harpo Studios. And I also worked with her magazine out of New York. But when I flew to Chicago, Harpo Studios, and I remember seeing Harpo Studios on the building. And it just really resonated with me, because Harpo is her name backwards, if you didn't know. It's her name backwards, and so it's her name into her business name, her branding for her own building and her business and her name. I was like, okay, God, what does this mean for me? And I woke up, I remember waking up, and God told me, your business is So What? So it's so Summer Owens, if you didn't pick up on that. Because everything that I do and I've done since I started my business now 14 years ago has been directly tied to me and my story. And I use my story in my life, and I'm such an open book to share my story because I want you to see I am sometimes sad, sometimes scared. I'm very vulnerable, but I'm very real. But I'm also very optimistic, and I believe in potential, and I believe in positive thoughts, and I believe in resilience. I believe in building confidence and overcoming obstacles. And God has blessed me with a story to help me to do it, to help me demonstrate it over and over and over again, even still, to grow my resilience muscles and be able to teach other people how to do it too. And so I quit my job at FedEx to go full time into speaking, and I discovered the speaking business, speaking career. And I also created a nonprofit called the SOA Foundation, which is focused on youth in Memphis. And so we created summer camps and workshops, and we took our kids to Washington, D.C., and they go to Washington, D.C. because in the book, and I actually just shared a post on Instagram and on Facebook with the picture that I took of with Quincy Jones, who passed away yesterday. But I actually met him in the airport when I was on my trip to Washington, D.C. I had been crying and crying. Well, first of all, let me say this. The trip to Washington, D.C. was my best friend's mom. Her job sent her, and I got to go. And it was that time, though, also that had just found out I was pregnant, and I was hiding my pregnancy. I still remember being sick and throwing up, very nauseous, but I was still hiding it. And I was even still trying to get out of this situation. Remember, I was 15 and I was scared, and I was pregnant by somebody I didn't know and did not consent to have sex with. So it was a very tough time in my life. But on that trip, we were coming back um, through Atlanta Airport, and we met Quincy Jones. And I remember sharing a laugh with him in the picture. We're laughing. I don't remember what we were laughing about, but we're not just smiling, we're laughing. And that brought me joy in that moment. But because of that trip to Washington, D.C., and everything that I experienced, all the sites and all the history of Washington, D.C., we take our kids as part of the foundation on a trip to Washington, D.C. exposure trip. So I created the foundation. I created my speaking business. I created the foundation. And then I just got into creation mode and just like, okay, what else can I do to help to help people? And so I written the first book. I wrote the curriculum. Then I created the confidence class because I began to understand, really understand that the foundation for resilience is confidence and believing in yourself. And so I went reflecting on my life and being a little girl, first grade, even kindergarten and first grade, where I pulled out my hair and like mama cut all my hair off even, and I got teased and bullied at school, and I'm laughing, but it wasn't fun. It was very hurtful. There was even an I Hate Summer Club. And again, I write about all this in the book. But how I overcame the bullying, and how I built my self-esteem and built my confidence, and even building my confidence to go after everything that I want in my life, to go to college, to go away to college, and to start my career and do some really, really bold things. So I created the confidence class, which is an online class, but I have a physical workbook because a lot of people said they wanted to write in them, and which I was glad about that because in the other workbooks, I insisted on writing. There's writing, there's journaling, there's reflection, because I realized how therapeutic writing was for me. And I know that writing, getting thoughts and feelings out, not only helps to purge negative feelings, but also put positive feelings on paper. Writing them down helps them to become more real. Create the confidence class. And then I created a coaching program called Get the Guts to Go For It, because I love helping other people. And one of the best ways I'm able to do it is through my group coaching program. And then I have one-on-one where I was like, okay, what is it that you want to do? Let's make it happen. Because every single thing in my life that I've wanted to do, I've made it happen. Now, not easily and not without mistakes, not without it costing me a lot of heartache and tears sometimes, and growing pains and learning pains, but I've made it happen. I've learned how to make it happen. And each time I do it, I try something new and I fail, and learn something new and fail and learn some new lessons. I get better and better and better at it. And so now I'm so excited because I'm able to help other people do it with fewer mistakes, fewer costly mistakes, fewer heartaches, fewer tears, a lot less pain. And so that's been amazing. But I kept creating. I kept creating. And so God also put me in a position where I didn't understand it. But earlier this year, I lost both of my grandmothers 5 days apart. And again, going back to this first book I talk about my journey with my grandmas, both of them were special in my life, but one is I actually live with, and I mentioned that earlier. I lived with her when I was pregnant and as a teen mom. In my first year of college, my son even stayed with her. And so then I created that book. As both of my grandmas were transitioning, that's 100 lessons my centenarian grandmas taught me. And it's taking the lessons I've learned from writing books with both of them, because I skipped that part. I wrote a book with both of my grandmothers, each of them. The one who passed at 102, I remember when she said, Summer, I reckon I ought to write a book. And I was like, okay, I know what that means. That means I'm going to write a book with her. And so I did. And after I wrote that book, I wrote a book with my other grandma, Grandma Osie. But then I wrote this book as they were passing away. I finished it and released it on my 45th birthday, which was significant because I got pregnant on my 15th birthday, and I spent my life trying to create new memories for my birthday because that was a painful experience for me. So although a blessing, a beautiful blessing, and my son came from that, that was a hard experience. And so releasing my book is an honor to my grandmas. This book, 100 Lessons My Centenarian Grandmas Taught Me, was special, and my way of honoring them and the lessons that they taught me. It has lessons on confidence, resilience, leadership, and life, which are the topics that I speak about, the workshops that I do, the keynotes that I do, the books and the workbooks that I create. Everything is about confidence, resilience, leadership, and life. And those are lessons I learned from my grandmas. And so I created that book, and now I have a curriculum to restore respect for the wisdom of elders, because I know, and you might recognize too, that the way that I loved on my grandmas and respect their wisdom, that's not normal. It's not common. Unfortunately, so many people now, young people or people my age who are not as young, and even people older than I am, we don't have the honor and respect for our elders like it used to be in like some other cultures. And I'm on a mission to help to restore that respect. And so that's why I created that book and that curriculum there. And I created lessons for every one of the 100 lessons. So go check those out. Those are part of my YouTube channel too. But each one of those lessons offer valuable tips on how to be more confident, resilient, to be a better leader, and have a better life, and a long life, and a productive life. And so that's been my journey. I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving something out. I will say this too. And so, because a lot is covered in a lot of the other videos, but I've created an awards program called the So What Awards and Scholarship Soiree, which is a fundraiser for the So What Foundation Black Tie Gala, which has been amazing. Check out the video on that. And then I also created the Love Yourself event, because self-love is so important. And it's something I did not have for a great part of my life. And then so many of us struggle with. And so I created the Love Yourself event to help us remind ourselves of how important it is to love yourself. And then to also to love yourself with self-care. So we're massage therapists and manicurists, and physical love yourself, carrying on beautification, that kind of thing. And then the other element of loving yourself, which is taking care of your health, taking care of your health. And so the Love Yourself event has been a powerful event that's grown and grown and grown. It started right here in my house, and now it's grown. We've had 6 different locations, and now we're on our 8th annual event, where it's grown and grown and grown, and it's been very impactful, and helping people to love themselves even more, and to raise funds for the So What Foundation, help us to help our kids love themselves, and to take care of themselves, and to see that they can be better, and they can be stronger, and they can overcome any of life's challenges. And I'll end with this, because I should have said it earlier, but with So What, when I came up with So What, it wasn't just about my name and incorporating my name into my business. It's about teaching people to say so what to whatever life brings. So what to being a teen mom, to so what to being to getting pregnant as a result of an assault. So what to being a single mom. So what to being broke sometimes. So what to even some of the hardest experiences that I've gone through. And for you to say so what to whatever challenges you have in your life, and to say, so now what? So now what? How are you going to move forward from that thing? Life can be hard. Life can be unfair. We can also make it harder. We can also put ourselves at a disadvantage. But no matter what, if we can learn how to say so what, and focus our minds on the solution rather than the problem, then we can overcome any challenge. And I've been a testament to that throughout my life. And every day I fight through challenges with the so what mindset, knowing that It's going to get better if I focus on solutions. For you, it's going to get better if you focus on solutions. And I'm so happy about, like I said, all the lessons that I shared from my grandma's book, 100 Lessons My Centenarian Grandma's Taught Me. But then going back to this first book, my very first book that changed my life, at the end of every single chapter, there are lessons learned. Every single chapter, there are lessons learned. Lessons learned from that period in my life. And guess what? I have a video for every single one of these lessons too. I think it's 92 of them. There's a video here in my YouTube channel for every single one of those lessons. And so I just had to go back and create this video to share a little bit of my journey on how I've made it. How I made it from becoming a mom at 15 years old to now being blessed to win so many awards and so many honors, but also to creating a business and a nonprofit that have been able to bless and encourage and inspire so many other people. So I want to encourage you, whether you're a teen mom, a parent of a teen mom, or if you're a young professional, like I was a young professional, if you're an entrepreneur, like I'm an entrepreneur, if you're an aspiring professional, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, I want to encourage you, and by telling you, yes, you can. Whatever doubt you might be feeling, whatever doubt you might be facing, that's fair. That's normal. But there's an answer to every question that you have. There's a solution for every problem that you have. There's a resource for every problem, every question that you have, every challenge. A lot of them are in my videos. A lot of them are in my videos. And to take it a step further, like I said, I want to encourage you to read my books that I've poured my heart into. But then you can also work directly with me. Like I said, I'm so excited about the Get the Guts to Go For It program. It's my coaching program. So whatever it is that you want to get the guts to go to do, I'm going to help you build the confidence and create the plan to make it happen. I'm excited about my journey. I'm excited about your journey. I know how hard it can be. I know how discouraging it can be. And especially if you're at the beginning of the journey, or if you're on the journey and you're in a particular part that's really, really hard. I remember being at work and well into my career, even though I was at FedEx and I was making more money, struggling as a teen mom, as a single mom at that point, struggling as a single mom, thinking about how unfair life was and how unfair it was that I was a teen mom, unfair that I had to do it alone. But I did it, and you can do it too. Whatever it is that it is, you can do it too. And I'm here. I want to help. I'm Summer Owens. So what? And I want to help you say so what. However I can help you, however I can be of service. But I just want to leave you with this. Stay encouraged and don't forget to say so what to every problem that you face.